Hello，你好，Welcome back，欢迎回来 to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger. The date is October 28th, 2020. And yeah, I know, probably some people looking at this and say, what the heck? Is this Toy Thursday? What's that thing doing in front of the camera? Well, concerning today's subject, and it is coming up to Halloween, I think it's very fitting to have this horrific looking guy in front of the camera. Because just like the subject of today, this guy, despite looking very demonic, very fierce, is a good guy. Just like what the person I'm going to tell you about today. We're continuing on little bloopers and interesting facts and stories from Chinese religion. This can be Buddhism, Taoism, or Confucianism. Confucianism. I, whatever Confucius is, okay? I can't ever seem to pronounce how you're supposed to say that. Anyway, I'm Chinese. Well, Taiwanese, whatever. And in my culture, we don't call him Confucius. Whenever I hear Confucius, Confucianism, yeah, there you go, Confucianism. Whenever I hear Confucius, I'm thinking, what is that? Like, why do they give them a name that just make him sound like he's confused all the time? If like, I can imagine the first time someone hear the name Confucius, the person's going to think, is this some new religion on being confused or the chaos theory or something like that? I mean, come on, Confucius. In Mandarin, we call him 孔子. So if you really want to translate it in English, just call him Master Kong or Kong Ji. Kong Ji. That's actually a Chinese food. Okay, maybe not. Maybe don't call him Kong Ji. I don't think he would like it. Anyway, putting Confucius aside, he is not really who I'm talking about today. Last episode, we talked about Master Zhong, the world's or China's first ever Ghostbuster, the person who was destined to go after evil spirits. Now, it's all fine and well to have superpowers, godly powers, to be able to go after any kind of demon or spirit, but the fact remains there is only one Master Zhong every 100 years or so. Not to mention that Master John, after being reincarnated, have to grow up. Uh, so you're going to have a lot of years when spirits and demons can run amok in the human world. Um, Also, each given time, there's only one Master John. There can be hundreds of thousands of ghosts and demons all over the world. So obviously, just one Master John is not enough for the job. There are others. There have always been other gods, goddesses, deities that chip in as ghost hunters, demon slayers, people, deities out there to keep order. And tonight I'm going to tell you of another extremely famous one, in many ways more famous than Master John, and probably is the second most effective person, deity, to go after evil spirits and ghosts and goblins and witches, and wherever evil rears its ugly head, this person, this deity, would be there. If you go into some Chinese temples or Chinese household, especially around New Year, Chinese New Year, um, you may find yourself surprised by a portrait of this very fierce looking, ugly looking, demonic looking dude with a sword in his hand and usually portrayed with either on his horse or he's standing by his horse, and there's a flock of bats over his head, like flying around him. And some of you who don't know the Chinese religion, you're like, who the heck is that? Like, are these people worshipping Satan or some kind of devil worshipping going on here? Like, who is this ugly, fierce looking guy? Well, his name is Zhong Kui, or in my own accent would be Zhong Kui. It's spelled Zhongkui. Zhong Kui. Zhong Kui. Despite his fierce and ugly appearance, no. Obviously, if you want, you can Google what he looked like, and there's a lot of portrait of him out there because he is very, very, very popular. Like even today, a lot of Chinese households still have a Zhong Kui portrait, depiction or statue in their living room or somewhere in the house, because he is very good at keeping evil spirits at bay. But if you are totally blind like myself and you can't really do a Google search, I'm going to attempt to describe. Now, what I describe is not probably not going to be what it looked like on Google, but this is how it was told to me. How the original description of Zhong Kui was. Zhong Kui was described to be a tall, well-built fellow with beard. The whiskers on his face were like quills on a porcupine's back, and his eyes were big and round and very fierce. They looked like cowbells, and his complexion was uh, in that weird shade between green and purple, and he had a very disfigured face that looked like someone took a baseball bat to his face, and he had big, strong, sharp-looking teeth. So, in another word, Zhong Kui is a weird-looking dude, a really scary, ugly-looking dude. What is the story behind this person? And what is why is he worshipped as one of the ghost hunters, demon slayers in Chinese folklore? Well, first, let's talk about why he's so ugly. It was said that Zhong Kui was one of the few mortals chosen to assist the goddess Nuwa in repairing the heaven. It's a really long and complicated story, so I'm just going to give you a short version. There was a big battle in heaven between the fire god and the water god, and the fire god ended up winning the battle, and then the water god got uh, angry. He was a sore loser, so he attempted to destroy the world. And suffice to say, he blew a huge hole in the sky, and the world was going to end. It was like Armageddon. Now, at the time, there was three ancient deities. One of them was the goddess Nuwa. Uh, the goddess Nuwa was in charge of all living things in the world: plants, people, animal, fish, bird, all that stuff. So Nuwa didn't want uh, all the life to end on Earth because of some battle going on in heaven. So she attempted to fix the sky. To do so, she had to use a very special type of uh, ore, a special type of alloy, mineral, rock, whatever it was. It was some really special kind of material. And only the most skilled stonemasons and blacksmiths in the mortal world could help her forge this material. So it was said that Zhong Kui was one of these people. He was the most skilled stonemason in the world. So he was drafted to help Nuwa repair the sky. For 10 days and 10 nights, Zhong Kui stood in front of his forge with his chisel and his hammer and working away at this special material that the goddess needed to repair the sky. Finally, because he was just a mortal man, after 10 days and 10 nights, Zhong Kui collapsed. He fell unconscious and he fell into the fire that he used to forge this material and died. To basically repay him for his brave sacrifice, Nuwa took his spirit in her hand and gave him the title of the Spirit of Justice and threw the spirit back down into the mortal world so he could reincarnate. And he did. He reincarnated as a mortal man growing up in a poor family. But because of the manner of his death was so special, he basically died, burned to death in the forge that was used to fix the sky. That got to be some really special forge with some very special fire. So even after being reincarnated, Zhong Kui was disfigured. His face was extremely ugly because of how he died. He fell into the fire. He got burned to death. So you can just imagine a person who got burned to death. Uh, yeah, he didn't look very good even after he reincarnated. But he was a hardworking, a very, very smart man. So he grew up and decided that he wanted to serve his country. So he studied and studied and studied. He studied for 10 years to take part in the imperial exam. Now, we talked about the imperial exam before, and the imperial exam was definitely a Confucius construct. Basically, back then in ancient China, if you wanted to work for the government, if you wanted to become a noble, if you wanted to become a minister or work for the emperor or work for your country, there were only two ways to go about it. One, join the army, and if you were really good, then you get promoted and promoted, you become a military officer. But two, if you really want to be able to get glory and wealth and be influential and make a lot of changes in the government, then you got to become a scholar. And the only way to be a scholar was to pass the imperial exam, which happened once every 10 years. People who passed the imperial exam were automatically uh, taken in by the imperial court and sent out to various locations. Like you would become the mayor of this city or the premier of this province, or you would become the minister of farming, or you become the minister of health and stuff like that. So it was a big deal because the exam only happened every 10 years, and uh, only so many people would get accepted and would be able to pass the exam at one time. It was a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of people died during these exams because of how grueling and tough it was. Some people just couldn't take the pressure. Zhang Kui had no such problem. He was smart, he was determined, and he passed the exam with flying color. Zhang Kui became the first place. He had the highest score of that year's imperial exam. But when they took him to see the emperor, because all the new people who pass the exam have to go and get an interview with the emperor, and the emperor have to ask you, what are you good at, and what is it you want to do for the government, and what would you like to do, which part of the country would you like to work in, yada yada yada. When Zhong Kui was taken to be interviewed by the emperor took one look at his ugly mug and told him No. Oh heck no. No, 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 no. You are a monster. You're so ugly. I can't have you working for us. You would bring disgrace to the imperial court. You would bring disgrace to your country. Whenever people see your face, you're so ugly. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm going to revoke your right to become a government worker, to become a nobleman, just because you're so ugly. You're too ugly. I'm sorry, but you just, yeah, yeah, no, we can't have someone who look like you in here. Yeah, Chinese people sometimes can be very, very judgmental. I'm here to tell you, being Chinese myself, I'm somewhat ashamed of this part of my culture. Is my culture, my people tend to be very judgmental when, especially on appearance. So they threw Zhong Kui out of the imperial palace. Heartbroken, Zhong Kui banged his head against a pillar at the palace gate until he broke his skull and died because of how ashamed and sad and depressed. I mean, the guy just spent the last 10 years studying, spending money, trying to make his way to the imperial city to write the exam. And he got thrown out just because he was ugly. So Zhong Kui killed himself, ended up in hell because apparently uh, he was apparently anyone who commits suicide back then go to hell first before they determine, like, if you are going to stay in hell or go to heaven or what's going on. When Zhang Kui got to hell, he was interviewed by uh, the king of the ruler of the underworld. Uh, some people call him Yami, but the proper way to say it is actually Yan Wang, uh, the king of the underworld. Now, I don't want you guys to think that Yan Wang or Yami is like Satan or the devil. When people hear about the king of the underworld, they kind of like to think they are demonic or bad or evil or something like that. No, Yan Wang or Yami was more like uh, uh, the king of the underworld in Greek mythology. You know how Zeus was the king of the lord of the sky, and Poseidon was the lord of the ocean, and Pluto was the lord of the underworld. Uh, well, a lot of people, especially if you watch the Hercules movie, they made the king of the underworld kind of evil, like he's a devil or something. But it's really not like that. The original Greek mythology, same with Chinese mythology, the king of the underworld is just the guy in charge. You know, a lot of spirits go to hell, go to the underworld after they die, so someone has to be in charge over there. So he's not there to do evil. He's just there to make sure the spirits go where they're supposed to go and do what they're supposed to do. So anyway, I digressed a little bit there. So Zhang Kui, after killing himself, ended up in hell and had an interview with Yan Wang, the king of the underworld. The king of the underworld asked Zhang Kui, I see on your record that you just passed the imperial exam. Well, why did you kill yourself? You're not supposed to die. That's not how fate had it. It's not your time to die. Zhang Kui said, because I'm ugly, I'm a monster, I'm useless, no one wants me there. And Yan Wang took one look at him And he said, no, man, no, no, you're perfect. Actually, I can really use someone like you. Uh, no, if those guys in the mortal world can't see your greatness, and after all, they're only mortal, so that makes sense. They can't see your greatness. Uh, you know, you are perfect. I got a job for you. You are going to be the king of all ghosts. You are going to be the lord of ghosts, the king of ghosts, the lord of demons. You are going to go around the world and make sure that all the ghosts and demons uh, leave the mortals alone. You are going to keep law and order for the underworld. I need someone like you. I mean, look at you. You're uglier, you're fiercer, you're scarier looking than any ghost. That was supposed to be a compliment, not an insult. But hey, you know, Yan Wang, he's a king of the underworld. He didn't have to be too diplomatic. So Yan Wang said, you're so scary looking. You're uglier. You're scarier than all the ghosts out there. And you're smart because you have to be smart to pass the imperial exam. So you're the perfect person for this job. You can intimidate them with your look, and then you can you look like a strong fellow. You can outmuscle them if they don't listen to you, and you have a good head on your shoulder. So you obviously know how to be a good person to govern these ghosts and demons. So Yan Wang gave Zhong Kui a sword that can kill any ghost, a horse that would never tire, and a little flock of bats. And these bats, they were not normal bats. These bats, they could be Zhong Kui's messengers, and these bats would lead him to wherever there's evil that he need to deal with. So they're basically his guide, his messenger, his underlings. Thus was born Zhong Kui, the king of ghosts. Now, keep in mind, at this point in our story, all this has been going on in the underworld, in the afterlife. So obviously, uh, he's not known in the mortal world yet. Zhang Kui did not become famous or become official in the mortal world until the Tang Dynasty, about 1400 years ago. It was said that one of the emperors during the Tang Dynasty got really, really sick. He had all the imperial physicians come to treat him, to look at him, and none of them could tell what was going on with the emperor. The emperor was just wasting away. Honestly, if you ask me, he just had too many women. But anyway, no one was going to tell him that. So anyway, the physicians came and went, and the emperor was wasting away, dying a very slow death. And nothing the physicians did worked. One night, the emperor had a dream. In his dream, he saw a whole bunch of little evil ghosts flying, dancing, running around, skittering up and down the wall all over the palace. And suddenly there was a thunderclap, and a huge, towering figure with eyes the size of cowbells and whiskers like porcupine quills and a face that was purple and green appeared out of thin air, and this huge, monstrous figure started scooping up the little ghosts and putting them in his mouth, eating them. And the emperor was really scared. So he asked this figure, he asked, are you the devil? Are you here to kill me? I've been very sick. Are you here to take my life? Is this the end? This towering figure said to the emperor, he said, no, 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 no. You got it wrong. I'm here to help you. My name is Zhong Kui. I'm the king of ghosts, and I noticed that you have a lot of little evil spirits here in your palace. So I came to get rid of them for you. Next day, when the emperor woke up, he was cured. His illness was gone. He was strong again. He was healthy. He got his appetite back, and he could do his uh, whatever duties emperors had to do. Um, and he was surprised. And he decided maybe this wasn't just a dream. Maybe it was real. So he contracted the most famous artist in the kingdom, had them draw this figure he saw in his dream. And he started asking around, who's this guy? Does anyone know? Is this Zhong Kui a real person? And then someone finally told him, "Oh yeah, this guy, this was one of the guy who passed the imperial exam several centuries ago, like a long time ago." And the emperor at the time threw him out because he was so ugly, and he killed himself. And the emperor said, "No, we need to reinstate him. We need we need a guy like that for our country because this guy just cured me. This guy uh, dealt with all the evil spirit in the palace." So the emperor awarded Zhong Kui with the status of a imperial general for his imperial military. So Zhong Kui was obviously he was dead for several centuries by this time, but the emperor still awarded him uh, the title of an imperial general, and he was known from there on as the General Ghost Hunter of China. The story started leaking into the towns and cities and surrounding countryside, and people started to worship the depiction of Zhong Kui, the king of ghosts, the ghost general of China, and there were temples built, and even today, a lot of household that will put up a portrait of Zhong Kui in New Year time, special occasions, just so he can help protect us from the evil forces in the world. It is said that Zhong Kui has built up a following that uh, he alone commands about 80,000 different ghosts and demons in the underworld. And he is still here. Wherever there's evil that takes place, he will show up there sooner or later to make sure that no demon or spirit, or ghost or goblins or monsters escape justice. Thank you for checking out today's Wisdom Wednesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Toys Thursday. For now, have a good night and 再见.